Hey everybody. Hi Lance. Welcome to another LinkedIn Live event with Instruqt. I'm your host. My name is Barry, and I'm happy to be in this live session with our guest, Lance Larsen. Lance is head of emerging product solution engineering at HashiCorp. It's a mouthful, but Lance will explain later for sure. How's it going, Lance?
Thanks, Barry. Happy to be here.
Cool.
Doing well.
Welcome to our LinkedIn Live. Today, Lance will share with us best practices and hot tips on how to enable and empower pre-sales in half of the time as usual. But first, we want to know where you are joining us from. So I'm based in Amsterdam. Lance, where are you?
I am in Chicago, Illinois, here in the U.S.
Okay, cool. Well, please tell us and drop a note in the comment section where you are based. So we love to have people from all over the world and participate and ask questions, and we can drop them to Lance, and he for sure will answer them. So let's see. Before we chat with Lance, maybe it's really relevant to tell a little bit more about the Instruqt, what we are, because I think Lance will, somebody else from Amsterdam, Lance will for sure mention Instruqt a couple of times. Well, Instruqt is a hands-on, challenge-driven virtual IT lab with a browser-based private sandbox environment. So what does that mean? It's really easy for prospects and customers to get familiar with your software in a pre-configured, live, fully functional environment, and learn about the capabilities and, more important, about the value of your product. When you use Instruqt, you deliver a full working version of your product with data in the sandbox, so people can start directly. It's not a simulation, it's not a video. People can try it out and really experience themselves what it is doing. Well, Instruqt helps to drive engagement and help people to see the value of your software in the entire customer lifecycle. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the customer lifecycle, I think we'll be discussing later on by Lance as well, is we see all kinds of workshops to generate leads. And it can be on-site workshops, can be online workshops. People are doing a general introduction, and then the attendees or the students can click on the link. They get their own environment, they get their own challenges, and on the back end, you can really manage what they are doing, and you can really track the engagement. What we see more and more happening is test drive. So in the past, a lot of software companies using the concept of a free trial. So you can download the product or you can play with the product, but it was really difficult to see how much time did people spend on your product. Did they get really started up? Did they get it installed? Did they have the right requirements in place? And what we see happening right now is people click on a link, they get a test drive, they can play with your main capabilities, with your main features, learn about your product, and you on the back end can really track the engagement, which is really valuable information for the sales team. Well, we see the training, the workshops, but also the instructor-led training, and it can be a classroom or that can be a online thing. And then the same thing as with the workshops, the general introduction, and all the students can play with their own sandbox, within their own sandbox, with all kinds of challenges on the different tracks. What we see happening more and more is the self-paced training, so that people can learn in their own time, whenever they want, and you can manage and track what they're doing and how much time they spend. And the last one is, more the embed, so you can integrate in your documentation as a sort of a tutorial. Instead of writing everything down, you just put a tutorial there in the Instruqt platform, and people learn by doing instead of just reading the stuff. But let's go back to Lance, because he's our special guest for today. So I'm happy to speak with you. Maybe you can introduce yourself and tell a bit about your role at HashiCorp, Lance.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. I'm Lance Larsen. I've been at HashiCorp now just over 4 years. I started as one of our original solutions engineers, Barry, when the company was quite small. I think we had maybe 10 solutions engineers back then. So our company has grown significantly since then. My role's changed a few times, and now I lead our solutions engineering for our emerging products. And those tools and solutions that we offer in emerging products, they can have a wide open source community behind them and a large number of users, but that just means our commercialization strategy for those products is a bit newer compared to stuff and other products in the portfolio.
And Lance, what are the emerging products? Can you give an example?
Console is one that I'm spending quite a lot of time with today. So, for folks who don't know, HashiCorp is a cloud infrastructure automation company, and we focus on helping people connect, run, secure, and provision their applications. Console is the connect part of that story, Barry.
Cool. Well, the reason that we invited you was really about pre-sales enablement and to get them up to speed as soon as possible. But maybe you can explain a bit about how the situation was at HashiCorp when you get in and how pre-sales get up to speed in the past.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting. I think Barry, I've used Instruqt in various degree of roles at HashiCorp. I used it a lot when I was actually a solutions engineer, and now leading groups of solutions engineers. I teach them how to use it. So I've sort of been through Instruqt in different roles through this journey, and going all the way back to when I was a solutions engineer and we didn't have Instruqt is probably the best place to start, as that sort of led our original discovery session where we connected with you all. So and there is a great case study, Barry, kind of on why we made that decision. I think some folks hopefully have seen and read that.
And Lance, how did you do it before? Was every pre-sales guy setting up his own environment or working on his own machine to get stuff working?
Yes, it was. We had a lot of institutional knowledge, which just means, inside our SCs, the folks here, a lot of knowledge that it wasn't well categorized in repos. It wasn't tested. It was mostly, folks saying in Slack, "Hey, I built this demo, this week. Here's where it lives." And that we didn't really have a release cadence, enablement cycle around that. It was just sort of hot potato between sort of the demo of the week. And I think while that did get us to the point where, there was enough of that knowledge internally, it really only worked when we had 15, 20, 30 solutions engineers as we really started to continue to invest and grow that organization. We couldn't afford the time spent for everyone to kind of solve that problem on their own.
I can imagine. So why did you decide to do it differently? You saw something, or what was the moment?
So the moment for me, I remember this vividly. I was at a customer site, and we had just duct tape and glued this sort of Instruqt-like sandbox. I shouldn't even call it that, Barry, because it does such a disservice to what Instruqt actually is. But it was the same idea. It was kind of a homegrown. It would spin up workstations and allow people to play with the software. And I was about to give that session to about 50 people at a customer, and the entire thing just died on me. I couldn't get into any of the Bastion hosts. I had my Amazon. We ran out of VPCs in the account, and I was I had my manager there at the time. He was stalling in front of the entire group, and I was coding and trying to come up with a way to fix the environment. And I just said, there has to be a better way. This isn't repeatable. I think it's causing a level of stress and almost a resistance to doing these types of sessions because of the level of effort. And we just got to go find, we either got to build something or we got to buy something, but we have to rein this process in.
Yeah. Cool. And you get your bonus that year or not?
Well, I don't know, Barry. I'd have to go back and look. But it's certainly, like I said, it was a very stressful experience. And fortunately, shortly thereafter, we had some people in the company who knew Instruqt very well from our EMEA teams. And there was a small group of about 3 developer advocates using Instruqt. And that's kind of when I started putting together a write-up of our proof of value and ultimately procurement of Instruqt for our organization.
Yeah, and the rest is history. Now,
the rest is history. Here we are.
And how's pre-sales enablement set up today?
Yes, so I think this is where this sort of started to change. And there's another LinkedIn Live, Amanda McLeod. We really saw our first big wins in Instruqt of applying this to our field marketing sessions, because those Barry, again, are traditionally 100 participants, 200 participants. We try to do some lecture with labs and just kind of have a nice fun format where people can understand the value of our tools, what they're solving, but also get hands-on with them. And we think about that customer scenario that I had, but trying to do that 4 times a month for field marketing, right? Everyone was like, we got to get this fixed. So the field marketing program was really successful. I think we reached over 10,000 people through, Instruqt led workshops. It was 10x what I anticipated, the demand. And that's when, and it's a great story. Y'all should go read about that. But I think that's when the gears started turning for me. Why don't we take this same approach to field marketing that's so repeatable and apply this to, our pre-sales processes? And I think we have, the same types of activities we do. They're a little bit different than the field marketing, and we'll show kind of what this looks like. But demos, proof of concepts or proof of values, workshops. I saw this parallel opportunity to take the learnings from field marketing, slightly tweak the content, and start mapping Instruqt related tracks to what our pre-sales SCs do, right? Which are those kind of demo, proof of concept, workshop type activities.
Yeah. Did it cost you a lot of time to get the first tracks for pre-sales available, or?
So I think our building this stuff for field marketing, that was our first go. So that was a couple months of work to really get that all out there. But once we had that, it was pretty easy to use those as samples to build out the demo catalog, the workshops, and now we're on to our more sort of modular proof of value framework. So that was probably more 4 to 8 weeks. But I think once Instruqt is pretty well known within our organization. I think our internal Slack for Instruqt is 300 to 400 folks, just to give you some adopted. The tool is in the community of folks who understand it, and that allowed us to build the assets for what a pre-sales SE would do much quicker than sort of that initial first goal for field marketing.
Yeah. Well, Lance, people love to hear some metrics. Are there some metrics that you can share with us?
Yeah, don't we all? So I would say, and traditionally, I when I hire a new SE, I'd put them on a 10-week plan to try to get them, at least through what I would call an onboarding process. And that would look maybe in the first 2 weeks getting comfortable with the demo. Weeks 2 to 4 getting comfortable leading a workshop. Weeks 6 through 8 or 6 through 10. Those are more activities of helping an SE execute in the customer's environment with a health check, checking on their open source footprint, or with the proof of concept. So what I traditionally saw, and examples being these larger workshops or curated for field marketing or curated sessions for customers, it typically took an SE before I'd really start seeing these pop up in Salesforce that they were doing them, around 3 to 6 months to kind of feel comfortable. But with Instruqt, that really changed in that, I was seeing pretty regularly our newer SEs delivering these within 4 to 6 weeks of, being here. And I think was a lot of validation of just when you have a tool like Instruqt. Again, you still might need more senior SEs to support newer SEs at the customer with really complex problems, but delivering the standard things we do in almost every sales campaign, it cut the ramp time significantly. And these were quality sessions, Barry. I mean, 200 to 300 people in field marketing, 30 folks in a curated one-on-one session, 80% participation, and just some really good outcomes to back up that condensed timeline.
Well, nice, impressive. Hey, we got let's see, a question from what is it, Sean Miller. How would this vary from using Frequent or VMS? But maybe this is the time that you can, if it's possible or you're allowed to do it, you share maybe something how you guys set it up. Show something.
Yeah. It's a great question, Sean. I know we included a demo, Barry, in this so we could really show folks like the ultimate power of when you're using all the Instruqt use cases, what's possible. And I think that's why not only do our SCs love this, but our customers love it too. Do you want to jump over to the demo, Barry, or do you want to table that for now?
Well, let's see. Yeah, go ahead, Lance. Move on what you want to do. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I was just trying to check here on time, Barry, and just make sure that we're moving along. So let me take the screen, and then we'll jump into a little bit of what this looks like. Is my screen coming through, Barry?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So typically, Sean, I'll talk a little bit about your specific question, but
Tabo's asking as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So basically what I'm going to do here is talk about, creating an invite that's content access to, a specific, and these are great because they can be leave behinds, Barry, as well. So not only can I do the demo, but I can reliably say, hey, if you like what you saw today, this will be available for you for 7 days, and you can go back through this. So that's just time that my SCs don't have to spend, always with the customer if they really saw value in what we're doing. The self-service approach is super helpful. We get great data and analytics off of it. And in some cases for, smaller accounts, we might default to a self-service approach, which allows us to scale. So I just wanted to call that out, Barry. Going through this, you could give the link to a customer. It's linked to their, email account and domain, and you have just great ability to get this out to folks in a scalable way. So Console is, again, one of the products that we focus on. We have sort of a catalog internally of demos that looks like this page. These are all of the public console experiences, and you might either get these in a field marketing workshop or in a smaller curated session. But to answer the question just around, why Instruqt versus things like VMs, in the example of console and a lot of the HashiCorp products, with tools like Instruqt, once we brought these in, we're able to really show outcomes that, might take 4 weeks for a customer to figure out to do on their own. And we can consolidate things like, multi-cloud networking and routing into a 2-hour period. And I think, Vagrant and VMs, that's great. But sometimes in just the complexity of scenarios that we solve at HashiCorp, and I think we solve them in a really elegant way, it would be hard for a participant to bring cloud accounts that are configured correctly, Kubernetes or Nomad customers that are configured correctly. And the fact that we can just give them all of this infrastructure to test with and see value with in a short period, and provide experiences like where our product, UIs are completely embedded, within the Instruqt experience. Barry, these are just things that, while smaller, Vagrant type things are great, for larger workshops and more complex demos, the ability for us to deliver experiences like this, that's really where these wow, moments come from, where it's just hard always to expect that you can deliver these sessions reliably without this kind of, tooling, and access.
Cool. Thanks, Lance. That was really useful. Hopefully, it answers the question of Sean and of Tabo. So otherwise, they can put more things in the comments if they have more questions on this specific topic, so we can maybe address them to later, and we can answer them. So this was really nice. Yeah. And Lance, we had a preparation call before, of course, and then you also mentioned the different roles of Instruqt, the different roles that Instruqt is playing in your sales pipeline. So it's used from sales, from lead generation to growth, about customer success. Can you tell a little bit more about that? And you show a nice picture in the past. Maybe you can share that.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. So, and the workshop that I just showed was, one example of one of the sessions on here. But, and I also want to call out too, Barry, I think this maps a lot to what you showed, originally in your first slide, sorry, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I know this is indeed the customer journey or the customer life cycle slide that you guys are implementing in the real. I can tell it, but you guys are really doing it.
Yes, and so this is the middle of your chart, Barry. We actually, our public education team, so if you went to HashiCorp Learn, they actually, for kind of more product-led growth, they're actually out here using Instruqt, and our training teams are also using Instruqt over here. So this chart really, for an end-to-end customer journey with HashiCorp, does include Instruqt in those other places. I'm just focusing more on kind of the core, selling motion here, as this is where our pre-sales folks spend the most time. But so let's just say, as an example, you maybe saw an Instruqt, demo or short tutorial on HashiCorp Learn, creating demand. For us, we would try to funnel you into, a few different types of experiences. Field marketing, we talked about those. These are great sessions for us because it allows our pre-sales engineers to reach a large audience. With the Instruqt technology, we can reliably drive these technical outcomes for hundreds of participants. And I think, Barry, going back to that first year, we had 10,000 people, right, who went through this in terms of, registered, named accounts and folks within those accounts. So we saw a great lift here. And inside sales, smaller accounts, often coming through those channels, being able to give them, smaller, shorter 20 to 30 minute demos, offering self-service or leave behinds. We get scale basically, from both of these bullets, and our strategic and large accounts, specifically, focusing on workshops where, again, we can do these amazing things with the products, have everyone in a session go through provisioning in 3 clouds with Terraform and running and connecting and securing applications. This is obviously the most important thing to us, Barry, and we're willing to spend some of the money to give these experiences because our largest customers, everyone's time is valuable, but we certainly try to work within their timelines and constraints. So these are more 2 to 4 hour advanced sessions focusing on architecture, art of the possible, big picture outcomes for folks in the platforms that they care about. And, ultimately, even proof of concepts, right? The fact that they've already seen, something like this, they've walked through it, they've seen how all the products work, and they can test, and run code against the environment. Ultimately, Barry, these things help the POV go faster because it's almost, it really shows people what the North Star is in a crawl, walk, run journey. This is the run, right? And the fact that they can kind of see this in this session, they know where they're going, and it really helps us, triangulate the value for them. So, I'd say also, Barry, again, for the, for the education teams and then, the post-sale teams, there's really, some extra things that I'm not capturing, but you can just see from this, Barry, how much, within the pre-sales teams and across teams, Instruqt really touches, so many important points of this organization, and all this being tracked in Salesforce or other things. We know in the data set that Instruqt just leads to better outcomes for our sales teams.
Cool. So, for example, if you look at POCs, then sorry, Kate, is about expanding the screen because somebody's asking, can we see this in presentation mode? Is it something Lance needs to do, that he makes the screen bigger? Is that possible, Lance? Okay.
Is that better, Barry?
I think this is better, much better. Yeah, that was one of the questions. Sorry for that.
No
So what we see for POCs is that Instruqt is used to educate your prospect or customer so that they will be much more effective when they actually run a POC or a POV on one of the HashiCorp products. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying, yes. And there are instances where the workshop is so impactful with the amount of use cases and coverage. And again, Barry, it would have been impossible before this tool for us to reliably show people how to install our products in 3 cloud environments and see the value repeatedly, before Instruqt. So there are certain cases where we've seen Instruqt improve the quality of these sessions to, hey, we don't want to do a proof of concept because we've seen how this software can work, and we want to go straight to a services or paid engagement or a small pilot. And those were things where it was just too much work for our team to build all the scaffolding to provide that multi-cloud experience that Instruqt unlocks really easily for us. So while we still have to do proof of concepts, Barry, in the customer's environment, Instruqt, again, I think helps us reduce scope. Sometimes it replaces criteria in the POV. And because folks come into the POV much more educated, we're less intimidated by doing, customer POVs now than pre-Instruqt, is what I would say.
Yeah, it will accelerate your sales process for sure. And I had the same experience in the past. The previous company I worked for, and we did a POC or POV. We did it on site. So then the pre-sales guys were flying in, and they come at the customer side, and they spend the first 4 hours or first half a day in explaining all the basic concepts about your product instead of delivering value, what you really would like to achieve during a pilot. So it will really accelerate the POC. Will make it much more effective as well. So I recognize.
Yeah, Barry, to be honest, we I almost never want our team. The guidance I give is we shouldn't be doing proof of concepts without these workshops because,
Yeah,
to your point, we just have to go back and explain so much if they don't get that education through the workshop program. It
yeah,
almost never makes sense, to
yeah,
skip it. And I think too, the workshops are so much more fun and enjoyable for the customers because, with the technology and the boilerplate solved through Instruqt, we can just focus on these awesome experiences and
yeah,
and the customers just love it. The feedback's great. We have we collect all these surveys, and we have a 90 plus%. This was a awesome session type feedback. So I think it's a mix of things for sure. But
yeah,
yeah, I think even if you have to test in the customer environment, to your point, Barry, having them accelerated education and understanding of the software through the
yeah.
workshop, it is a key accelerant, and it's a requirement, by exception thing for our team, right? For going and doing POVs at the customer,
Yeah.
you got to do the workshop first.
Cool to hear. Well, another topic is which is really hot and really cool in the tech scene, and every SaaS vendor and every software vendor, they want to become product-led growth. So instead of sales guys and sales-led, that the product should sell itself. We even had a LinkedIn live session earlier this year with Wes Bush, which is from the product-led group. How do you see the value of Instruqt in product-led growth?
Yeah, it's a great question, Barry. And I think, even the role of pre-sales in product-led growth, I think product-led growth is amazing, for top of funnel. We're an open source company at HashiCorp, so we obviously get massive tailwinds from the ability for folks to, try our software before they talk to us. And I love being at HashiCorp, because of the open source community around us. I think at the same time, it's a different mechanism of entry, but a lot of times a pre-sales person still gets involved at some point to answer some questions about architecture, or use case, especially for larger strategic accounts. So,
Yeah,
we use Instruqt, for our sales-led and product-led growth strategies at HashiCorp, the learn and education team that provides a lot of our, easy types of try it scenarios. That's all, just launched on Instruqt for us, I think in the last quarter. And the ability for us to, have more of a self-service type of approach where it makes sense for people, accessing these types of sandboxes. I see it as it's just multi-purpose for us, and it supports both of those, pass well. So I was very excited to see our public website launch with, the Instruqt embedded for this reason.
cool. Cool. Well, Lance, it's already over because the time flies, because I
Yeah,
think
there you
we're
go.
almost talking now for 28 minutes. So let's see if there are any more questions that we can answer right now. I think there is one. What is the technical one from Sean as well? Thanks. It's helpful cloud integration. Do you risk exposing keys in that case, or customers provide their own tokens? Or maybe that's something that we can discuss offline, Sean, because maybe a little bit too technical to address
Yeah.
in this
I
session.
would say at a high level, Barry, Instruqt's actually allowed us to reduce our risk, because we have short, just in time cloud accounts that are scoped to individual participants. And Sean, it can be a large burden to try to manage that in your own, company accounts. So there's certainly some implementation details, but I'll just say our security teams were very happy when we presented, the Instruqt solution over some of the stuff that we had built.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's it, Lance. So I would like to thank you really a lot for this 30 minutes and sharing all your experience and how become the pre-sales guys, much more effective in a faster way, up to speed, not spending all their time in creating their own demos, not spending a lot of time in doing all kinds of setups, but really come up to speed and becoming productive and help you guys in the sales cycles in half of the time that
Yeah.
it was before. So
Absolutely, Barry. I mean, I think we're given, we're given an envelope of money, and we're given people and resources. And for me, Instruqt is how we sell. It makes our team effective. We can focus on what matters. My SCs love it. Our customers love it. And I couldn't go back to selling without Instruqt, at HashiCorp now. So that's the level of impact it's had for us over here.
cool. One more question. So, which is in the comments, what's your recommendation or what's your advice to the audience?
Yeah, so I think my recommendation would be, there's tons of great content out there for Instruqt. Get started, with a smaller project or one of the tracks out there that's relevant to you. If you're trying to roll this out in your organization, treat it like a first-class program, something that's in your center of excellence. And I think, there's great pick on my PowerPoint. Pick one activity, one circle that's painful for you. Start solving that with Instruqt, and then roll that out. To the other use cases once you've got some kind of grassroots, this solution is better, than what we're doing currently.
Yeah. Well, Lance, thanks again. Thanks a lot. For the audience, when you would like to know more, go to www.instruqt.com. There we have our test drive, so you can experience a couple of tracks, also one from HashiCorp, but another one from Red Hat. You can really experience from a user perspective. And if you would like to create your own content or your own workshop, please reach out to us and we can create an account for you. So thanks a lot again. Have a nice day. Lance, thanks again, and see you soon.
Thanks, Barry. Happy instructing.
Thanks, Lance. Bye-bye.